At 1:07 a.m., a Korean billionaire found a single mom's daughter washing dishes in his house. A glass slipped. It didn't fall loudly at first, just a soft clink against steel, then shattered, the sound sharp enough to tear through the mansion's silence. Kang Jun-ho stopped walking. At 1:07 a.m., his house did not make mistakes. He turned. The kitchen lights were on. That alone was wrong. He pushed the door open, and the girl dropped to her knees. Not slowly, not carefully, instinctively. "I'm sorry," her voice cracked as she scrambled for the broken pieces with bare hands. "I'll clean it, I swear. Please don't fire my mom. Please, please like and subscribe if you agree." She made a choice no child should ever have to make. Would you have done the same? Comment your answer below. Blood welled along her fingers. She didn't notice. Jun-ho took in the scene in a single breath. Stacks of plates, wine glasses from his dinner party, an apron too big for her frame, a child doing an adult's job in the dead of night. "Stop," he said. She froze. Slowly, she looked up. She couldn't have been more than 16. Dark hair pulled into a rough knot, hoodie sleeves soaked and pushed up, wrists red from hours in hot water. Her eyes weren't defiant. They were calculating. The eyes of someone already deciding what she could afford to lose. "I didn't mean to break it," she rushed out. "I'll pay for it. I'll work extra. I just needed to finish before morning." "Before school?" Jun-ho asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Behind her by the service door, he saw it. A worn backpack slumped against the wall. Old, heavy, used. From its zipper hung a blue and gold academic honor cord. Jun-ho's gaze sharpened. That cord did not belong here. "What's your name?" he asked. "Han Seo-yoon," she answered quickly. "My mom is Han Une. She cleans here. She's sick. She doesn't know I'm here. Please don't tell her." Une, the single mother, who never complained, who always left early, who had been missing shifts lately. Seo-yoon bowed too deeply, too formally. "I'll finish fast," she said. "I promise I won't come back again." "Leave the dishes," Jun-ho said. Her head snapped up. "No, I wasn't asking." Silence pressed in. Slowly her shoulders sagged. She untied the apron with shaking hands and set it down, like surrender. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not to him, but to the room. She grabbed her backpack and fled down the service hall. Jun-ho stood alone in the kitchen. Broken glass, bloody water, an honor cord where it didn't belong, and before the sun rose, he would learn why she had stopped going to school, and why this night would change all of them. Kang Jun-ho didn't sleep that night. He stood at the kitchen sink long after the girl was gone, staring at the water swirling pink before it drained away. Blood, soap, something that should never have mixed. He picked up the broken glass carefully, wrapping it in a cloth himself. That was mistake number one. By sunrise, the mansion was awake again. Staff arriving, doors opening, routines resuming like nothing had happened. But Jun-ho moved through the morning differently. Watching. At 7:40 a.m., he called his chief of staff. "Find Han Une's file," he said. "Now." A pause. Keyboard clicks. "She's one of our cleaners, sir. Single mother. Reliable. Lately she's been requesting time off. Medical reasons." "Medical," Jun-ho repeated. "How serious?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Her insurance claims increased last quarter." Jun-ho closed his eyes. "And her daughter?" he asked. Silence. "I don't see school records attached," the staff member said slowly. "That's unusual." Unusual. That honor cord flashed in his mind again. At 9:15 a.m., Jun-ho canceled his first meeting. At 10:30, he canceled the second. By noon, he was holding a thin folder that felt far too light for what it represented. Han Seo-yoon, top student, academic awards, perfect attendance, until 3 months ago. Then nothing. No transfers, no records, no graduation plans. She hadn't dropped out loudly. She had disappeared. Jun-ho leaned back in his chair, the weight of it settling into his chest. He had seen this before. Not in a mansion, not with crystal glass, but in a cramped apartment years ago. when his own mother quietly returned groceries to the counter and smiled like it didn't matter. That night at 1:07 a.m., the girl hadn't looked scared of him. She had looked scared of losing her mother. By evening, Junho made a decision, not a charitable one, a deliberate one. Do not discipline Une, he instructed calmly. Do not cut her hours, and don't alert her. Yes, sir. And find out where So-Yun is working now. The staff member hesitated. Sir, she's underage. I know, Junho said quietly. That was the problem. Across the city, So-Yun tied her hair back again, pulled on another oversized apron, and stepped into a different kitchen, this one louder, dirtier, and far less forgiving. She thought the night at the mansion was over. She was wrong, because Kang Junho had started seeing a pattern, and once he saw it, he never looked away. The diner smelled like burnt oil and old coffee. So-Yun pushed through the back door just before midnight, tying the apron around her waist as she walked. The uniform was too big for her. The name stitched on the chest wasn't even hers. She didn't bother fixing it. By now, the rules were simple. Move fast, keep your head down, don't talk back. The manager barked orders without looking at faces. Plates stacked, cups clattered. A bell rang every few seconds, sharp and impatient. So-Yun worked like she was invisible. She wiped tables, carried trays heavier than she should have, scrubbed pans until her wrists burned. When the pain crept up her arms, she ignored it. Pain didn't stop rent from being due. At 1:12 a.m., she checked the clock once. Her mother would be awake by now, pretending not to be sick, pretending the medicine wasn't running out. Move faster, the manager snapped when a plate slipped slightly in her hands. I am, So-Yun said quietly. He scoffed. You kids think this is hard work? Try doing it for real money. She didn't answer. She couldn't afford to. Across the city, Kang Junho sat in the back of his car, the city lights streaking past the windows. He hadn't planned to come himself. He told himself that. But the address sat heavy in his mind. A night diner, cash wages, no questions asked. When he stepped inside, the noise hit him all at once. Laughter, shouting, music from a broken speaker. Grease coated the air. He saw her immediately, not because she stood out, because she didn't. She moved with the same careful precision he'd seen the night before, the same way of holding her shoulders stiff, like she was bracing for something to fall. She lifted a tray piled too high. A cup tipped, then another. Careful, someone shouted. The tray slipped. The sound was deafening. Plates shattered across the floor, glass burst. Silence followed so quickly it felt violent. So-Yun froze. For half a second, she looked like a child again. Then she dropped to her knees. I'm sorry, she said quickly, already reaching for the shards with bare hands. I'll clean it. I'll clean it. Are you stupid? The manager yelled. That comes out of your pay. Blood appeared on her palm. Kang Junho stepped forward. Enough. The word wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The manager turned, ready to argue, then stopped when he saw the man standing there. The suit, the posture, the calm authority that didn't ask permission. She's done for the night, Junho said. She broke. I'll pay, Junho interrupted, already placing bills on the counter. And she's leaving. The manager grabbed the money. So-Yun looked up slowly. Her eyes met his. Recognition hit her like a wave. No, she whispered. Please, don't. Junho crouched in front of her, careful not to touch the glass. His voice was low, steady. Your hands are bleeding. It's nothing, she said, trying to hide them behind her back. Stand up, he said. She hesitated, then took his hand. The diner watched as he led her out without another word. Outside, the night air was cold. So-Yun shook, not from the temperature, but from everything she'd been holding in. You shouldn't be here, she said finally. I didn't ask you to follow me. I know, Junho replied, but you shouldn't be doing this either. Her jaw tightened. You don't know anything about me. I know you're not supposed to be washing dishes at 1 a.m., he said evenly, and I know you stopped going to school. That broke her. She turned away, shoulders trembling. I didn't drop out, she said. I chose. He didn't argue. He waited, reinforced, and in that silence, So-Yun realized something terrifying. He wasn't going to walk away, and whatever truth she'd been protecting, he was close to it now. Seo Yoon didn't speak in the car. She sat stiffly in the passenger seat, hands clenched in her lap, staring straight ahead like if she didn't move, none of this would be real. The city lights flashed across the windshield, bright and careless. Kang Joon-ho drove without asking questions. That was worse. They stopped outside a worn apartment building, paint peeling, one flickering hallway light, the kind of place people stop noticing after a while. "This is where you live?" he asked gently. She nodded. "With my mom." He turned off the engine. "Is she alone right now?" "Yes," Seo Yoon said quickly. Too quickly. "She's fine." Joon-ho didn't believe her. They climbed the stairs in silence. Each step felt heavier than the last. When Seo Yoon reached the door, her hand shook as she unlocked it. Inside, the apartment was clean, but cold. Too quiet. "Mom?" Seo Yoon called. No answer. She rushed toward the bedroom. Kang Joon-ho followed. Her mother lay on the bed, eyes closed, skin pale, breathing shallow. A half-empty pill bottle sat on the nightstand beside a glass of water. Seo Yoon froze. "She's just sleeping," she said, panic leaking into her voice. "She's tired, that's all." Joon-ho checked her pulse carefully. His jaw tightened. "When was her last dose?" Seo Yoon swallowed. "Yesterday morning." "That's not enough," he said quietly. "She said we could stretch it," Seo Yoon snapped. "She said she'd be okay." Silence filled the room. Then Seo Yoon broke. "She's sick," she said, voice cracking. "Really sick. The medicine is expensive. Insurance won't cover it. If I don't work, we lose everything." She laughed bitterly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "So yeah, I skipped school. I wash dishes. I clean houses at night. Because someone has to." Joon-ho looked at her. Really looked. Not like a billionaire. Not like an employer. Like a man seeing something he could never unsee again. "How old are you?" he asked. 17, she answered. His chest tightened. "You're a child," he said softly. She shook her head. "No, children get to be protected." That hit him harder than anything else. He stood up slowly. "Get your jacket." "What?" "We're going to the hospital." "No." Seo Yoon stepped in front of him. "We can't afford." "I can," he said calmly. She stared at him. "I don't want charity." "This isn't charity," Joon-ho replied. "This is responsibility." Her eyes burned. "Why do you care?" He hesitated, then said the truth. "Because I've seen this before, and because someone once walked past my family when they shouldn't have." Seo Yoon didn't argue again. As they lifted her mother carefully and headed back down the stairs, Seo Yoon felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. Not hope, not yet, but the terrifying realization that the secret she'd been bleeding for was finally out, and everything was about to change. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and sleepless nights. Se-yoon sat rigid in the plastic chair, hands folded so tightly her fingers ached. She watched doctors move in and out of the room where her mother had been taken, each passing second stretching longer than the last. Kang Joon-ho stood a few steps away, speaking quietly to a nurse. He didn't look frantic. He looked controlled, and that somehow made everything feel more serious. "This should have been handled earlier," the doctor said when he finally approached them. His tone wasn't accusing, just tired. "She's been rationing her medication." Se-yoon's chest tightened. "I told her not to," she whispered. "I told her I'd earn more." The doctor glanced at her, then softened. "You did what you thought you had to do." That wasn't comfort. Not really. When they were finally allowed inside, her mother looked smaller than Se-yoon remembered. Tubes, machines, a thin blanket pulled up too neatly. "I'm sorry," her mother murmured weakly when she saw her. "I didn't want to scare you." Se-yoon laughed once, broken. "You scared me anyway." Kang Joon-ho stood back, giving them space, until her mother's gaze found him. "Mr. Kang," she said faintly, I didn't mean for this to involve you." He stepped forward slightly. "You didn't involve me. I walked in." Her mother closed her eyes. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid I'd lose my job. Afraid my daughter would give up her life for me." Se-yoon's breath hitched. I didn't give it up. I paused it. Junho watched them, something heavy settling in his chest. Later, in the hallway, he spoke quietly to the attending physician. Do whatever she needs, he said. Long term, not temporary solutions. The doctor raised an eyebrow. Insurance? I'll handle it, Junho replied. Se-yoon overheard. She rushed forward. No, you don't get to fix everything with money. He met her gaze evenly. I'm not fixing everything. I'm fixing what shouldn't have been broken. She shook her head, tears spilling now. You don't understand. If I take this, then what? I owe you? You owe me nothing, he said firmly. And if that's a condition you need, then I'll put it in writing. She searched his face for arrogance, for pity. She found none, just resolve. That night, as her mother slept more peacefully than she had in months, Se-yoon sat beside the bed, exhaustion finally pulling at her bones. For the first time since she dropped out of school, she wasn't calculating shifts or counting pills. She was just sitting. And for the first time, Kang Junho realized the most dangerous thing about power wasn't using it. It was choosing not to, when someone needed it most. Morning came softly through the hospital window. Seo-yeon woke with her head resting against the edge of the bed, her neck stiff, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she heard the steady beep of the monitor and remembered everything at once. Her mother was awake, not fully alert, but better. Color had returned to her face. Her breathing was deeper, steadier. You didn't go to work, her mother said quietly. Seo-yeon smiled weakly. I quit. Her mother frowned. You can't just... I can, Seo-yeon interrupted gently. I already did. Silence stretched between them. Then her mother's eyes filled with tears. I ruined your life. Seo-yeon shook her head fiercely. No, you gave me one. I was just trying to protect it. Outside the room, Kang Junho stood with the doctor, listening as treatment plans were explained. Long-term medication, monitoring, adjustments, stability, if they didn't delay again. When Seo-yeon stepped into the hallway, he turned to her immediately. She'll be okay, he said. Not fine, not perfect. Okay. That was enough. What happens now? Seo-yeon asked. Junho didn't answer right away. That depends on what you want to happen. She let out a tired laugh. I don't even know what I'm allowed to want anymore. He studied her for a long moment. You were valedictorian, weren't you? Her shoulders stiffened. You looked into me. Yes, he said plainly, because you weren't acting like someone who had failed. You were acting like someone who had sacrificed. She looked away. You didn't drop out because you were careless, he continued. You dropped out because no one gave you another option. Her voice shook. Options don't pay for medicine. No, he agreed, but they can change what comes next. She turned back to him. If I go back, it won't erase what happened. The deadlines, the record. I know, Junho said, but it can be corrected. Her heart started to race. You can't just rewrite things. I can't, he replied, but I can open doors that were closed unfairly. She took a step back. And then what? Everyone thinks I was rescued by a billionaire? His jaw tightened, not in anger but resolve. Then we do this carefully, quietly, with your consent. She searched his face again. Still no pity, still no ownership, just accountability. I won't be your project, she said. I wouldn't insult you like that, Junho replied. You'd be your own. The weight in her chest shifted. That afternoon her mother slept again, pain managed, body finally resting instead of fighting. Seo-yeon sat by the window alone. For months her life had been about survival, about holding everything together with shaking hands and no safety net. Now someone was offering her something terrifying, a way forward. And for the first time she realized the hardest part wasn't working at 1 a.m. It was allowing herself to believe she deserved more than that. Seo-yeon didn't answer right away. She spent the next 2 days moving like someone afraid to breathe too deeply. She stayed close to her mother's bedside, listening to doctors explain schedules and dosages, watching the slow return of strength in her hands. Every improvement brought relief and fear, because improvement meant choice, and choice meant consequences. On the third morning, Kang Junho returned, not with lawyers, not with documents, just himself. "I spoke with your school," he said quietly, standing near the window. "I didn't give them details, only that there was a medical emergency. They're willing to review your case." Seo-yun's chest tightened. Review isn't the same as forgive. "No," he agreed, "but it's a beginning." She stared at the floor. "What if they say no?" "Then we find another path," Junho replied. "But this one should at least be offered back to you." Her mother reached for Seo-yun's hand. Her grip was weak, but firm enough to matter. "You have to try," she whispered. "Not for me, for you." Seo-yun swallowed hard. "What if I fail?" Her mother smiled softly. "Then you fail knowing you didn't disappear for nothing." That afternoon, Seo-yun walked back into her high school for the first time in weeks. The halls smelled the same. Lockers slammed. Laughter echoed. Life had continued without her. The principal's office felt smaller than she remembered. "You shouldn't have carried this alone," the principal said gently, after hearing everything. "We should have pushed harder, asked more questions." Seo-yun nodded, shame burning quietly in her chest. "We can't undo deadlines," the woman continued, "but we can document the circumstances. We can reinstate your attendance, and we can request an appeal." Hope crept in, careful, fragile. That evening, Seo-yun sat outside the hospital with Kang Junho, the city humming around them. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't," he replied. "You decide." She looked at him then. "Why are you really doing this?" He didn't answer immediately. "Because someone once looked at my family's struggle and decided it wasn't their problem," he said at last. "And I promised myself I'd never be that man." Seo-yun nodded slowly. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something she had to steal back in pieces. It felt like a door, one she was finally allowed to walk through. And behind her, the night she'd spent washing dishes at 1 a.m. began, quietly, to loosen its grip. The appeal process moved slowly. Too slowly for Seo-yun's nerves. Every email notification made her flinch. Every call from an unknown number tightened something in her chest. She tried to stay busy, helping her mother with meals, organizing medicine schedules, studying old notes she wasn't sure she'd be allowed to use again. Kang Junho kept his distance. Not cold, not absent, intentional. When updates came, they came through proper channels. When help was needed, it was offered once, and only once. No pressure, no reminders of what he could do. That restraint mattered more than she expected. One afternoon, Seo-yun was called back to the school. She sat in the same office, hands folded in her lap, heart pounding, as the principal and the counselor reviewed papers in silence. "We've approved your reinstatement," the principal said finally. "Your record will reflect a medical family emergency. You'll be allowed to sit for your final exams." Seo-yun's breath caught. "And the scholarship?" The counselor smiled gently. "The committee has agreed to reopen your case. They were impressed by your academic history." For a moment, Seo-yun couldn't speak. She nodded, once, twice, then pressed her lips together, afraid that if she opened her mouth, everything she'd been holding back would spill out. That evening, she found Kang Junho waiting outside the hospital, hands in his coat pockets. "They said yes," she told him before he could ask. He nodded, a quiet exhale leaving him. "Good. That's all you're going to say?" she asked, almost smiling. "It's your victory," he replied, "not mine." They stood there for a moment, the city glowing around them. "I was afraid," Seo-yun admitted softly. "Afraid that once people saw me, they'd expect me to become something else, someone grateful, smaller." "And?" he asked. "And you didn't," she said. "You saw me and stepped back." He met her gaze, because being seen shouldn't come with strings. The words settled between them. Later that night, Seo-yun sat beside her mother's bed, books spread out in front of her. Real books, with margins she could write in again. Her mother watched her quietly. "You look like yourself," she said. Seo-yun smiled. "I feel like I'm coming back." Outside the window, the city moved on as it always had. But inside that small hospital room, something had shifted. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough to change the shape of what came next. For the first time, Seo-yun wasn't just surviving a story someone else wrote. Graduation came faster than Se-yun expected. The weeks between were a blur of late-night studying, early mornings at the hospital, and quiet meals eaten beside her mother, as strength slowly returned to her hands. The future no longer felt like a distant, impossible thing. It hovered close now, fragile but real. On the day of the ceremony, the sky was bright and cloudless. Se-yun stood in her cap and gown, fingers brushing the honor cord resting against her chest. It felt heavier than fabric should, not because of pride, but because of everything it represented. In the crowd, her mother sat near the front, thinner than before, but upright, eyes shining. Beside her, Kang Jun-ho sat a few rows back, dressed simply, hands folded, watching without drawing attention. When Se-yun's name was called, the applause rose around her. She walked to the podium and paused. For a moment, she didn't read the speech she'd written. She looked out instead, at the faces, at her mother, at the man who had once found her washing dishes in the middle of the night and had chosen not to look away. "I almost didn't stand here today," she began, her voice steady, "not because I wasn't capable, but because sometimes life asks you to choose between surviving now and believing in later." The crowd was silent. "I learned that dignity isn't about never needing help," she continued. "It's about being allowed to accept it without losing yourself." When she finished, the applause felt different. Not polite, not routine, real. After the ceremony, as people hugged and laughed around them, Se-yun found Kang Jun-ho standing a short distance away. "Thank you," she said simply. He shook his head. "You did the work." "Yes," she replied, "but you didn't take the choice away from me." That was the part she decided to keep. Not the rescue, not the money, the respect. Later that evening, as she helped her mother into the car, Se-yun looked back once at the school grounds glowing in the sunset. The night diner, the broken plates, the fear. They didn't disappear, but they no longer owned her. And as she drove forward, she knew one thing with certainty. The future wasn't something she owed anyone, it was something she had earned. The rain started just as Se-yun stepped onto the bus. It wasn't heavy, just enough to blur the city lights into soft streaks of gold and white. She paused at the door, gripping the strap of her bag, and looked back through the glass. Her mother stood on the sidewalk, thinner than she used to be, but standing on her own. No walker, no shaking hands, just a quiet strength that hadn't existed a year ago. Beside her was Kang Jun-ho, not the billionaire, not the man whose name moved markets, just a man watching the future pull away from him. Se-yun lifted her hand. Her mother smiled and waved, blinking fast. Jun-ho nodded once, deep, respectful, final. The doors closed. As the bus pulled into traffic, Se-yun leaned her forehead against the window and exhaled. For the first time in years, she wasn't calculating what she would lose next. She was thinking about what she might become. That night, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Kang Jun-ho stood alone in the kitchen, where it had all begun. Stainless steel counters gleaming, lights low. The sink was empty now. No plates. No frightened girl scrubbing away her future at 1 a.m. He poured himself a glass of water and didn't drink it. Instead, he sat. For decades, sleep had avoided him. He had built an empire in the hours when the rest of the world rested, convincing himself that rest was weakness and silence was wasted time. But tonight, the silence felt different, finished. On the counter sat a single photograph in a wooden frame. 2 soldiers, one Korean, one smiling too young for war. A debt that had waited 50 years to be repaid. He turned off the lights and walked upstairs without looking back. and for the first time in a very long time, Kang Junho slept. Across the city, Seiyuyeon's mother sat at her small desk, sorting letters for the foundation that now bore her father's unit name. Each envelope held a story. Each story mattered. She touched the scar on her wrist, where illness had once tried to take everything. It hadn't won. The story didn't end with wealth, or rescue, or miracles. It ended with something quieter. A single mother who no longer had to choose between survival and dignity, a daughter who didn't have to destroy her future to save her present, and a man who finally understood that some debts aren't paid with money, but with restraint, with timing, with showing up at exactly the right moment. The dishes had been washed, the night had passed, and no one was left behind. If this story moved you even a little, like the video so more people can find it. Subscribe for stories that remind us kindness still exists. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it there?